Greetings, everyone. Thanks for joining us at our Cancer Education Series, sponsored jointly by Above and Beyond Cancer and the MercyOne Cancer Center. I'm Dick Deming, Medical Director of MercyOne Cancer Center and founder of Above and Beyond Cancer. This presentation tonight is brought to you in part from a grant from the Iowa Cancer Consortium. And you guys are in for a treat tonight because I know I'm in for a treat tonight. I have my friend Bob Schleter, and Bob's going to tell you a little bit about himself. He and I got to know each other through his cancer journey, but he has an even longer, prouder music journey.
Indeed.
And I have to tell you, I am such a fan of music. Whenever I am anywhere, if there's music along, it is better. And as we're developing our integrative medicine program at MercyOne Cancer Center, I'm learning more and more about the science of the healing power of music. But you don't have to be a scientist to know all of the positive effects of music. So, Bob, maybe just talk a little bit about yourself, your history.
Sure.
Where were you born?
I was born right here in West Des Moines, Iowa.
I thought you were going to say you were born under a wandering star.
Well, it may have been wandering.
Okay.
I've been wandering ever since. Yeah, born in West Des Moines, went to Valley High School, 1972 graduate.
What was your claim to fame in high school?
Absolutely music, absolutely rock band that toured all over the world. Oh, not the world, although got carried away. All over Iowa.
So 1972, that's when I graduated from high school too.
Talked about
when was your first rock band? What was the name of your first band?
Well, my buddy Jim Elliott and I started a band when we were 13 years old in junior high still. And I think that band was always called the Stitch in Time. Jim had been to Toronto and seen a band with that name, and we stole it. And we've evolved in the course of our high school years and got better and better players and played some great gigs.
So in high school, what would have been like your proudest moment in terms of a cover band, like a song that you not a written that you wrote, but one that you covered?
Well, so that's
or did you
fresh in my mind to a certain extent because 2 years ago we did a reunion together and dug out all those songs. One that I loved then and I love playing again all these years later was "I'm Your Captain" by Grand Funk Railroad. It had just like a suite. It had all these different levels to it. We had a woman who sang and a guy both. So we did things like "Somebody to Love." I put together a mashup of "Somebody to Love" for the women's side and "Born to Be Wild" from the men's side, like a conversation together. So we did that in this reunion concert.
Okay, so I can almost hear you. I'm like in the room with you.
Yeah.
And then from Valley High and Stitch in Time.
I traveled on the road for 2.5 years, playing all over the country. Then came back and settled here for a bit, played some more with some great people, and then went to school in Iowa City. Met wonderful players, still very close friends today. Played in Iowa City, stayed there for 6 years, then moved to San Diego.
And so when you went to school in Iowa City, what were you studying?
I took every music course I could find. They didn't have a major that really fit me in music. It was, it's a, quote, piano and violin school. But I got so much out of studying classical music, studying every jazz course they had, but equally from the people in town that I worked with. Some of them had graduated from there or been in and out of other, situations. But I learned so much on the job from great players.
And did you study the teaching of music? Or that came later?
Not really. I think I observed it because I was teaching privately this whole time. I started teaching privately when I was 16 at Des Moines Music on Walnut. So I always had that in my heart. So I was lucky enough to have wonderful teachers here in West Des Moines, in Iowa City, in San Diego, where I went next. And it's been and then that's what I did for my career.
Gotcha. So what happened in San Diego?
I met another whole bunch of wonderful players. I was part of a wonderful community that I'll talk about a little bit later. There's a song that came out of that time. And I decided at that, I met my future songwriting partner at that time, which also I'll talk about that, who's very inspirational and continues to be. Just got off the phone with him yesterday. We've had a relationship as collaborators for almost 40 years now. And he comes from music from a very different perspective, but so we're we're soulmates that way.
And are you both? Do you both write music, or is one music, one
He's
lyrics?
he's a black actor from Detroit. So he writes lyrics. He's a poet and a playwright, and he really thinks in terms of theater, in terms of scenes. And one reason he was one of the first people I talked to after you and I had talked about doing this presentation. He was one of the first people I talked to because he had things that he would say, just at different moments in our experience that that he wasn't in the music business, he was in the healing business. Because to bring a group of people together is to heal them, right? And he still does that in a really high level, a really important. It's important community work.
Okay. So, and you met him in San
In
Diego?
San Diego.
And then where was your next city that you lived in?
I moved to Boston because he moved to the East Coast, so I moved back to Boston to be closer. Went to Berklee College of Music, so I had second music degree, much more tailored to what I wanted to do.
And thanks for reminding me that Berklee College of Music is in Boston,
It's in Boston,
not in Oakland.
Not in Berkeley, California, which was another place I hung out a bunch. Berkeley was a great experience. At that point, because of my partnership with Ricardo, I was doing things that were large scale. All of a sudden, there'd be 30 people involved, 10 players and 20 singers and a cast of thousands. So I needed to learn how to write for that, how to conduct that, how to arrange that, and how to manage that. So Berkeley was great for that, as was more on the job training. At that point, I was ready to be married and start a family. I came back to the West Coast, this time to Northern California, to the San Francisco area, and fell into a great job teaching. So I taught music for 27 years. Extremely gifted kids.
Public schools, private schools, private lessons.
What's known as an independent school.
Independent.
Yeah, it was a private school in my
K through 12.
It was a high school. High school.
And so I did my residency in San Francisco. Where was the high school?
So this is Marin. This is Santa Fe.
Mm-hmm.
And Marin is a gorgeous place. And also, I came to find it was the center of a whole lot of music that I grew up listening to and loving. Came out of Marin County. So what the effect by the time that I got there was some of those people were still there, like Sons of Champlin and Terry O'Haggerty in particular, and bands that I loved. But there was also a lot of people who had escaped Los Angeles and moved to that area that were in show business or the music business. So I, had a parade of kids coming, from extremely musical families, and without exception, those people were so generous with their time and their contributions. And I'll talk about some of that tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, well, let's jump in.
Sure.
And maybe before we jump in, though, you and I did not meet because we were getting together to sing a song and make a record.
Right.
Maybe share how you and I met.
Sure. So backing up a little bit, in 2009, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. I went through a year and a half or so of what was then called active surveillance. I became a vegan, which was a big change, dropped about 40 pounds, but the cancer kept progressing. So in 2011, Cinco de Mayo, never forget that, I had surgery for prostate was removed. And, it was not great surgery, I'll just tell you right now. But I was good to go for the next 4 years. And then 2015, the PSA, the tumor marker started to rise again, very slowly at first. And I did a whole series of, what would be thought of as alternative healing. That, they meaning Marin General said, we consider you incurable, untreatable. And so I did a number of alternative trials, none of which were able to eliminate the cancer, that possibly slowed it down, the progression, who knows. But they were each of them were enlightening in their own ways.
And let me ask you, did you ever consciously think about what role music played in healing, either as you were getting ready to go in for your prostatectomy, which was hopefully going to be a cure, or after your PSA came back and you realized that your cancer wasn't cured, did you consciously think about the role music
I
played?
think I did in two ways. One was that I am blessed with a positive attitude. And I think being a musician really fostered that and helped that, you know, remain stable and grow in my time. And the second was, and my partner Rita's here, and she was part of this journey. When I was in Mexico doing an alternative treatment, and I put together two different mixtapes, we'll say, using the old language. One was just a chill, the chill. It was the hour of chill, including some Bach and some Miles Davis and some beautiful music. And the other one was as I was doing immune therapy, so I was getting blood in and out of me all the time that was treated. So I had a happy mixtape for the blood to make the blood happy going in. So that and those were they were somewhat playful, but also very real. But in doing this, putting this presentation together for tonight, it brought me to awareness of many other aspects of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, so 2015 things start to rise. They keep rising. They keep rising. And then finally they really go haywire. And I'm bone. Well, I guess I left off part of the journey here. I moved when I had a 27-year job, which was wonderful, raised beautiful kids, had a wonderful marriage. And then as things started to rise, sort of out of control, I was deciding whether or not I was going to follow this dream of moving to New Orleans and playing music full time, because I'd done a lot of playing in the Bay Area, but that always had to be second to working and a lot of other things. So I finally decided I would do that. So I moved to New Orleans and did find work playing full time, a number of different styles of music and different artists, and I'll play some of that, one of those groups tonight. And then about 2 years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago, I said I really need to go in and get the PSA checked again here, because I'd been doing the ostrich technique. Maybe the ostrich.
Yes, the ostrich technique.
You just put your head in the sand, and yeah. And that was working pretty well until I went.
That's
to
not exactly active surveillance; it's sort of inactive surveillance.
Inactive, yeah. So the PSA had skyrocketed. They took me in for scans. The urologist said, it's here, it's in your bones here. It's all over the place.
Was that the first time that it was found to be in the bones?
It was first time in the bones. I'd had a scan before, and it was, it was suspected to be in the lymph node, but they weren't even sure about that. Mm. So okay, now I'm a mess. So I decided to pack up and leave New Orleans. New Orleans is not the place I felt where I could really take care of myself. Live a clean diet. I don't really drink or do drugs or anything like that, but I was constantly out to 2 o'clock playing, and driving home sometimes, usually right in the city, but it's just not. I knew anything I would do, I had to really get back to the best diet I could do and the best self-care. So I did this, paid a lot of money, went to Mexico and did immune therapy, and that was a follow-up of 6 months. Did that. PSA kept rising. I had different bouts of this and that. So when I was finished in Mexico, I came back to the Midwest, and the pandemic hit. So this brings me to my first piece of music. So here I am. I've kind of survived this first real onslaught of first realization that I really have this disease in an advanced state, and now I'm locked down too. Okay, and I'm 2,000 miles away from the home that I had for more than 30 years. So I said, well, what am I going to do? Okay, I'm going to make a CD. There's only me, so I'm going to make a CD of duets with myself. I'll play one guitar part, and then I'll play another on top of it. So I did. I made a CD, and I had great fun. And this is the reveal of music, and I want to emphasize, this is true at whatever level you are. I'm at a fairly advanced level, and I'll talk to some people tonight. Our off the charts in their level of, professionalism. But I've also, taught hundreds, if not thousands of students. And I know it's true for them too. Whatever your level at, this kind of engagement in music takes you to a good place. I ran across a couple quotes as I was getting ready to do this. First of all, the people I interview and talk to, they were very consistent with a couple things that they emphasized. One was the music as the spirituality of music. Music as their way to spirit. They talked about the power of collaboration, and I can't emphasize enough. I feel like that's part of the process is you come up with ideas yourself, you collaborate with others to fill it out, and then you do it for other people. And every artist I talk to emphasize those same three things. That the doing it for other people is part of it. That could be just for one person, an audience of one. It could be for 10. It could be for 10,000.
So part of the collaboration is, excuse me, is who you're working with to write the music, but you also are using the word collaboration to describe the audience as being a collaborator.
Very much a part of that. So I had all this sort of outlined and ready to go, and I'd made my videos of the pieces I was going to use and so on, done my interviews, and I was listening to Terry Gross, kind of the year end. This is our best interviews from 2000, or maybe it's even across the decade. I'm not sure, but I heard two things in my little short drive from of a mile. One was Sting, who I admire greatly. Sting says, "Music is my church. It leads to spirit." Well, this is what everybody said in some form. And then Amy Grant was next, and she said she had this conversation with herself. This is how you are. You live busy. You feel inadequate sometimes. We all are. Music takes me out of this. Okay, these are themes that everybody I talked to, and myself included, were consistent with. So anyway, here I am, advanced cancer, locked down, don't have the same, network of friends and musicians and so on that I've enjoyed for so long. What am I going to do? I'm going to make a record. Okay, so this is a fun piece. That's the first song on the CD. Okay.
All right. Awesome. That's All of Me
All of Me
by Bob Schleter,
Yeah.
twice. So
Twice.
you're playing
Solo duets, yeah.
And so what are the two different guitars or same
guitar?
Same guitar.
Yeah.
So the one is the dominant.
I played the chords first, just
Uh-huh.
have a bassist, and then played the one on top. But of course, what I did not have was an audience or a collaborator really either. So I made a bunch of CDs, you know, because it's a tangible thing, and gave CDs out to, you know, people.
So how'd you choose the song All of Me?
There's a whole mix of things I chose for the recording, and I like this because I like the intro. I actually stole the intro.
It wasn't because you lost your prostate and now.
No, yeah, that's a
I wish I had all of me.
I'm going to use that now.
Okay,
I'm going to use that. Yeah, Body and Soul, maybe. Yeah, true.
Okay, and what, even as we're listening to this, so it's a very joyful. I mean, it's a playful and joyful to listen to it. And I can only imagine to be able to have your fingers turn into that music.
Well, this is the thing, that the doing of that is a meditation. It's a meditation. All those, you know, the monkey mind, the chatter is just gone. It's just gone.
You're one with the music when you're
That's all. It's all you're doing. And you know, I did it a number of times. I try to choose a real variety of pieces throughout the recording. And I like this one because I like the way it starts. I still, those are that's the trumpet part from Glenn Miller's "In the Mood." I mean, once in a while somebody will recognize that. Yeah. So the next thing, and I think we'll cut it short, even though it's going to be a pretty noticeable, just to try to, you know, keep on time here. The next one. So I'd done this thing by myself, and you know, the cancer's, it's still an issue for sure. But now I needed another project, and I thought, okay, the next thing I'm going to do is collaborate with people long distance, because now we're deep in the pandemic, right? So my son plays saxophone. He's in San Francisco. The piano player is a student of mine who's just blowing up now as a performer, and she's in Brooklyn, New York. I play guitar and bass here in West Des Moines, and the percussionist is from Mexico City, but he's living in Madison, Wisconsin. So we collaborated. You know, I wrote a song. I you know, put the basics down so that there's something to follow. My son played it first. The piano played brilliantly, and then the percussion, everybody played brilliantly, but the percussionist, Tirth, played his part, and then I mixed the whole thing. So this is a collaboration. I call it L. We'll just listen to just a minute of this. All right, so that's a little shortened version. That's my
why did you call it L? Is L as in the letter L, or is it EL?
It's ELLE. I
Okay. Oh,
don't know. I mean,
a woman's name?
it's a woman's
Gotcha.
dance,
Gotcha.
right? You know, that Spanish tinge is
Yes.
definitely a
Yeah.
dance,
Yeah.
and I love the way my son plays it.
Yes.
Thanks,
Beautiful.
Ryan.
That is beautiful. Thank you, Ryan.
So so that's my second project. Now, just to back up a little bit, when I was in San Diego, I met my songwriting collaborator, and we're coming up on 38 years writing together now. And we have this project that I love, and we were moving more and more towards bringing that back to life. It's called Trains and Dreams. It's I won't go into the details about it, except it's a theatrical show, a story set in the future, and it's it's a big cast. So I had all these recordings, and sometimes just amazing voices, and I hadn't had time to really arrange a lot of things. So that was my next pandemic project. Is I really delved into orchestration. The I'm a sound person, right? And talking about healing, I think that sound itself and vibration is healing. We talk about the healing power of strings, um,
Or singing
or
bowls.
singing, or and the human
The
voice, all
voice.
those things. Um, so I really jumped into that full force, which means spend some money on orchestras. But I have the British Broadcasting Company Orchestra on my computer, and a lot of other things too. So I jumped into that next. Um, so to set that up, I interviewed my partner, my songwriting partner, because I have such respect for him. So he talks. So when we first met, he had a show called Celebrations in African Odyssey. Really brilliant show that I didn't see for a few years. I mean, I won't talk about it much for time's sake, but I literally, when it was time for intermission, I just sat in the audience and sobbed. This is like a heartbreaking story of a slavery, and it ended up being very upbeat, but it's beautiful stuff. Um, so when he would talk about this writing the show, having no musical experience whatsoever. No, he didn't study music, didn't sing, didn't play, etc. Yet he wrote this show. So I asked him to talk about that, and then that'll lead us to the orchestration that I did on the things that we did together. So this is my partner Ricardo Pitts Wiley, just a Zoom interview, just the two of us. Yeah, this should be number 3.
Challenged, and I've been challenged by the theater in San Diego I was working at the time, the Marquis Public Theater. In a nutshell, they asked me, did I want to do something in the holiday time? I said, yes, I do. And they said, well, come back next week. Tell us what you want to do. I came back the next week and I said,
You guys are still alive, so you can talk a little bit. Okay, so maybe I can summarize what Ricardo talked about, and we'll go on to the next one. That's a big task. My partner is a fascinating person. So he was working as an actor at a small theater in San Diego, which is where we actually met. And this is before we met though. And he was in a meeting. Of a personality and enough
A known entity to them.
enough of a known entity and a bold person that they just said, okay, you're on. So they were going to produce it exactly. So he, then the reality set in. and he talks then about his love of Donny Hathaway, who's a wonderful singer-songwriter. And I have, I love Donny Hathaway in the past. I've really come to love him since, listening to Ricardo talk about him. And he talked in particular about the album Extensions of a Man, which is on my healing tape. It's just a beautiful long orchestral warm-up, and then this gorgeous voice comes in. So he said, after he made this commitment, he sat down at a table one night, very late. He's a late night guy, and he said the spirit of Donny Hathaway sat down across the table from him. Donny Hathaway had died a few years earlier. That's I've got it. I got it covered. We'll go to the next one in a minute. He's Donny Hathaway says, so you're gonna write a musical, and Ricardo says, yeah, but I don't know anything about music. I don't know how to do what I'm supposed to do. And he said, well, think about the first person who ever wrote a piece of music. He didn't know any more than you do. He didn't know how to write it down, or he didn't have any theory or education. He heard music and it came out, and it went from there. So that's what he did. So he said he sat down that night at that same table and wrote his first song, Prince of Peace. And it's this beautiful song. And he said he wrote 13 songs that night. And I asked him in our Zoom conversation, like lyrics and melody and everything. He said, yep, everything. He said, once I had the lyrics, I knew what the melody was. And so he had a collaborator of sorts, or a piano player that he knew from the theater. And he said, I wrote some music. Will you help me with the piano part? And so I can, teach it to other people. So he said, you'll just sing the songs into a tape recorder. This is back in the cassette days, right? So he did. He sang those 13 songs. And he said every 2 minutes he'd apologize for how bad he sounded. But he got it done. And gave it to Kent. A couple of days later, Kent came back and said, I love it. I love it. This is beautiful. It's from the heart. We can make it work. So Ricardo went to his house and he played Prince of Peace. And it's like, oh my God, it's like, there's the song. There's the song. So that first show is beautiful. So we worked, we worked similar to that. He had the seed of an idea. I would often, pick out what was important. Sometimes he'd send me something like, there's nothing that repeats in this whole thing. This is what we want to focus on right here. So the piece I'm going to play now is something that we wrote, after we'd been together a couple decades actually, and it's for this show that we're talking about now, Spirit Warriors. It was called the Spirit Warriors Dream at the time. It evolved into something called Trains and Dreams.
Trains and Dreams.
And again, my connection to it in this pandemic time was that I wanted to bring this orchestration to life. I had a great recording with one singer. We actually recorded it again with a different singer. And I knew I'd be going to Providence, Rhode Island to work with these people eventually, which I did. So this piece is my partner Ricardo and I. It's called The Nature of Dreams. I want to tell you, but sorry. That's a false cue. I have a wonderful friend who has had just the hardest time making a baby. She had lost at least one that I know of, and then lost another, and she was just devastated, just absolutely devastated. I mean, near suicidal, all the negatives you can think of. And somehow we were communicating, probably via text, I'm sure. And I said, I've got a song for you. So I sent her this song. And she texted back about an hour later. She said, I've just got it on repeat. I just listen over and over again. It's so healing to me. So that's I think that's the first time somebody specifically said that about something I worked on. But we'll come back to that subject again.
mountain can reach so high into the sky, but the mighty mountain will never fly. A tree can live so long without a care, but the tree won't climb a mountain because it's there. That's the nature of things in the world. Then there's the nature of dreams, 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 dreams. That's the nature of dreams. Can roll the tide, or like two lovers wait, but the moon won't try to see the light of day. The sun can warm a stone or a rocket heart, but the sun you will shine despite the dark. That's the nature of things in the world. Then there's the nature of dreams, 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 dreams. That's the nature of dreams. Then there's the nature of dreams, 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 dreams. The nature of dreams, dreams, dreams. That's the nature of dreams.
All right, Bob, that was beautiful.
Thank you.
As you were telling, leading up to it, I sensed clearly the excitement you had of the collaboration. You talked about that before, that one of the things that's healing about music is the way that you experience it. You're not just a single person listening to music with headphones. You're about collaboration, and the collaboration of the making of the music. And then as you got a message back from your friend about how she felt listening to it, it was powerful and healing.
Well, I'm an admitted Aquarius, so is that collaboration is everything to me. And the last couple of pieces were long distance collaborations, which actually, you know, have a certain kind of authenticity as well. But it's not quite the same as being in a room and kind of hammering it out with somebody. No, try this, try that, try. Oh, that's oh no, that's it. That, you know, there's an excitement there.
Just an aside, have you watched the new Beatles documentary?
Yeah.
Did you see some of that going on?
You know, Mike, we can talk for a good hour about that.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, quick hits. it humanizes those guys in a way that, you know, I almost regret, you know, because for me, you know, February 9th, they were on Ed Sullivan. February 10th, I turned 10 years old and never stopped, you know, pursuing music at that, you know, from then on. And they were magic to me, you know, and some of that magic is stripped away. You know, we saw the magic trick revealed a little bit, you know, but still, it's wonderful. And the collaborations they had over the years, oh my goodness. And the time period that their brilliance evolved from, you know, the pop stars to the, you know, the heavyweight, you know, voices of the generation and all, just it's sounding. So the next piece I'm going to play, hopefully we can make this work technically. So when I was in San Diego, as I said, I was playing in New Orleans, rather, I was playing with a number of different people. And so I played a jazz gig one night and an acoustic gig the next night and a soul gig. And, you know, I loved it. And I was playing with this acoustic group, Freddie Blue and the Friendship Circle. And Freddie was a songwriter. And Freddie had been through melanoma and had chemo and, you know, horrific experience, you know, going through chemo and so on. And for him, this song is called "Notify Your Healthcare Provider." It's really a cathartic, you know, experience. So he gave me a couple of quotes. I didn't interview him live. I just asked him to write a couple of things. The song gave me a way to vent my frustration and anger at the money first being at the money first, and then treating the cancer second. The clear reading of the side effects was more about liability and lawsuit prevention than easing my burden. We really enjoy rocking out to it, so I'm delighted people enjoy it and see their experiences in it. What really set me free was the acceptance and finding gratitude on even the worst days someone else was having a rougher time, giving thanks each evening without asking for tomorrow. So this is Freddie Blue, my buddy in New Orleans. I'm not on this because I left by the time they did this recording. But it's called "Notify Your Healthcare Provider." It's worth saying, too, that Johnny, the violinist, is really a wonderful player. Johnny is actually an emergency room physician, too. So he knows this from another side.
Okay.
So, the words control.
For side effects, we got more than a few, and if they pop upon you, notify your health care provider. Whatever pills make your feet turn blue, well, listen to what I'm telling you. Notify your health care provider. Oh, you're pissed off, your heart's beating fast. Everywhere you're passing gas. Notify your health care provider. Well,
And
Okay.
we're back.
Yeah, so apologies for the technical challenges here. It's a funny song, but it's, you know, yeah, anybody who's been through this knows it's a serious song too.
Okay. Let's bring it over here. We'll alternate verses here.
Okay, so what we were just leaving off: modern medicine controlled by a few, can't say their interest is you. Best hope the doctor has a clue.
Hallucinations, bad dreams too. Doesn't seem to be any rest for you. Notify your healthcare provider.
Side effects, we got more than a few, and if they pop up on you, notify your healthcare provider.
Notify your health. They're gonna take all your wealth. Notify your healthcare provider.
That's Freddie Blue.
So Freddie Blue, so some frustrations there. You know, he saw that medicine practiced as a business prospect is loses something when you kind of, and the patient perceives that this is just a business adventure,
Yeah.
and that there's more a concern for the business aspect of providing the health care and getting remuneration than there
Yeah.
is for the
Anybody have that
healing.
experience?
Yeah. Yeah. So have you had that experience?
I've been lucky. I mean, there was a period where I actually didn't have any health care. I was pissed off at the system, to tell you the truth, because they said you're incurable. So I said, okay, well, I won't. I'll just go elsewhere then. But then I hit 65 and Medicare kicked in, and then I switched to Humana, and it's all pretty smooth sailing, really. I appreciate so much about it. You know, that's why I'm here. I wouldn't be otherwise. So the next one is another cathartic piece. This is a friend of mine. It's an interview with my friend Charity. I won't say much about it because she really, I think, speaks for herself beautifully. But this is a piece that, you know, again, maybe I shouldn't even introduce it that way. I'll let Charity speak for herself. So Charity Gooden is a wonderful friend. I played in a band with her for years. We did a bunch of duo gigs. We did gigs where we played for people with dementia, and we played carnivals and all kinds of stuff. So I asked her, longtime collaborator, and we made a CD together in 2008 or 2010 rather, and she wrote this beautiful song that was on the CD, and I have to admit that I didn't even really fully process the lyrics for a while because I was sort of into all the music that was happening, you know, the melody and the the instrumentals. So when I finally did listen to the lyric, I was like, whoa, you know, because I knew her situation, so I knew what it was about. So this is Charity Gooden.
When I think particularly about the song "Woman," well, I have to back up just a little bit because for that song in particular, I was given a piece of music that was lifted from a Bach piece, and for the life of me, I can't remember what it was because, of course, now it doesn't sound anything like Bach, but that was the general outline of it. It was very moving. It was a beautiful piece. At that time, my first husband was having a lot of issues with health, and we didn't know what was going on. It's a really long, convoluted story, but it really changed his personality, and it changed the dynamics within our relationship. And, you know, I'm trying to honor all of my commitments and my vows, and yet at the same time, it felt like I was trying to stuff toothpaste back into a toothpaste tube. Mm-hmm. It was a very difficult time. I had a 2.5-year-old son, and and someone who was mentally not there and physically gone, right? So there was just all kinds of stuff going on, and I really didn't know how to express it. I mean, who has a guidebook for that, right? But I did have my music going on, and I was working with a pianist, and he brought this piece in, and he says, well, maybe you can write some lyrics to it. And I wasn't particularly thinking of my situation because, frankly, the music was just a lovely escape. And I sat down, I was listening to it, and all of a sudden it just came to me, and there was the measure there, woman, just the way it came out. And I thought, yeah, that's me talking to myself, like a higher self looking down and saying, look, woman, you've got a lot going on, and this is what's happening, and you feel this way and you feel that way. And it was pretty raw and ragged, but it was a beautiful way to express the love you feel for someone, and yet you know you have to save yourself before you can save somebody else, which goes against pretty much my core, I guess, I don't know how to say that. That just sounds so pathetic. But for me, you know, life is all about love. It just is. It's just all about love. And it was a hard thing to see that this particular love, this kind of situation, and what I thought was the be all end all wasn't. And I had to step away from it to be able to survive and to help him, but to also raise my son and to help myself. It was a cathartic experience, although, as I said, when I wrote the answer sound. It just started flowing while I was sitting there. I wrote it in pretty much one afternoon. I just listened to it, and I sat down at the kitchen table, and I was just scribbling away. And it wasn't as if I sat down and said, okay, this is going to be cathartic. This is going to be a healing experience. It just was what was happening in my life at that time.
I was lucky enough to record that song with you and play it a bunch of times in front of an audience. So what was that like as you continue to do it and have other people experience it?
It was beautiful. It was really beautiful. And it was, I think it, you know, I don't want to sound arrogant or anything, but it may have touched other people in a way that helped them to look at things like, oh yeah, that I felt that way too, and it's okay to feel that way.
Woman, look at the lines on his face. He can only think about the time you shared love with such grace. And woman, he just can't leave you alone. What you gonna do with this man, broken and so far from home? And woman, how much can rest on your soul? He's looking for someone to help him to carry his load. Oh, and woman, you know that you care, but how much more can you?
Wow, that is one powerful.
Isn't that powerful? It is.
Of the, the story that leads up to this music, but then the lyrics, and then the voice that hits those. I don't know. You probably know what chords you can hit. I think everybody who writes a Broadway musical knows that there's this certain sound that just sort of sends shivers.
It goes to the next level.
Yeah,
it does. Yeah, it does. And that was, a true collaboration. I mean, Charity wrote the song, but we, helped her make it come alive. All of us, me on guitar, my buddy Steve, and we've had many collaborations on piano. Bruce on bass, and Tirth on drums, who played earlier song, and then a percussionist, and we had a couple different percussionists. I'm not sure which one that was, but anyway, all of us contributed to that in a way. I mean, there was an outline, like a rough draft, and then we worked together to bring it out, and that process is wonderful. So again, I mean, I make the point now that we've done a few of these. The initial creation, takes you to a place of, pure spirit. You share it with some other people you trust. And I've heard stories of, listen to George Harrison, he brings a song and he doesn't know if it's going to get on the album or not, George Harrison. I mean, I've heard other people of that, that level talk about that same process, their fear of bringing the song into their collaborators, their mates.
But part of that ends up being judging it by success as opposed to
does it fit in the big picture?
Right.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
of course.
whether that song ever made it to the Broadway stage or was on the top 10 list, I mean, that song has power
I think it should
in
be
this
both those
room.
places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I want to kind of start wrapping it up and talk a little bit about the healing power of music.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't talk tonight about music therapy, and we're not going to, but just for people to know, music therapy is a certified credentialed discipline in healthcare where music along with psychotherapy is used specifically for particular medical things. But we're talking about a bigger picture of music being healing. And we talked about maybe 3 different buckets. One can be the healing power of creating music, just like journaling, writing can be healing. So this creativity that can be healing. We talked about the healing power of collaborating on a project. And I would say whether you are working on designing a software program or building a building, this power of healing that comes from collaboration. And then there's the power of healing, music healing for the listener. So I've never written music or lyrics, but I can be healed by listening. And maybe ask you in terms of your journey that you're on with prostate cancer, which of those buckets are there other buckets? How do you view music as healing for you in the context of this journey you're on with incurable cancer?
I think all those things. I'll summarize one of the interviews that we won't get to in full, because he says it best.
Okay.
So when about 5 or 6 years ago, I started working with the 2 daughters of Bob Weir, who's the founder of the Grateful Dead, and first I was a bit starstruck, even though I wasn't a huge Dead fan. There's one album I loved, Working Man's Dead, and I knew of their success and their following and everything like that. But I got to know Bobby as a human being. He was extremely generous with his time. We ended up doing a songwriting circle together and things like that. So when I when you and I first talked about this, he's the first one I called. I texted. Boom! Right away, he said, "Yeah, let's talk. Let's talk." So he when I brought up in the introduction is what he emphasized right out of the gate. Music and all creative arts, it just takes you to pure spirit. It's the expression of pure spirit. So for me, that is, I have to start there. That is so true. I've had my most spiritual experiences through music. Now, one of those includes walking into a gospel church, and that music just takes me away. And I was lucky enough to play with 2 different churches, Black churches. So I was in the midst of that. So that pure spirit, collaboration is part of it. So what I asked him, I said, dude, you are in an exceptional position where you play for tens of thousands of people. So it's not just they're just listening. There's a loop that happens. And this happens if it's an audience of 1 or a club or 30,000. So I said, what is it like? Because you something initiates from within inside you. You play it for tens of thousands of people. They resonate with you. They send it back to you. You take that in and you send it back to them bigger, and they receive it bigger. And this whole thing, it's not just, we play and you listen. It's a loop. It's like plugging in to a circuit, and that circuit amplifies everything from both sides. From the listener's side, but the band, the performer is getting every bit of that too.
And
So
that's maybe a reason sometimes live albums have this.
there you go. There
There's
you
one
go.
thing about
Yeah.
playing in a studio, but when you
you
bring
know,
that.
during the pandemic, watching any of those late night comedy shows without an audience, it's terrible. There's no juice there. There's no juice. So I said, what's it like? Because I played in front of 3,000 people before. Sun going down is kind of magical. I said, what's it like? And he said, oh, it's first of all, I'm just so full of gratitude. But the thing I would say is I'm weightless. There's no compression in my spine. I'm just pure spirit. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's kind of what we're all looking for, isn't it? I mean, that's as players, and I've sort of mused for years about, well, how do you sort of guarantee that what's going to happen? Because to me, it's a crapshoot. He said no, night after night, if we're on tour, that experience happens because he's learned how to give and take, and it really is that. It's a really give and take thing. So, I certainly have had experience listening to things and just being moved, whether it's recording or live or whatever. But to me, it's that loop that's the real significant experience.
Should we go to the last recording?
I have to do a quick intro because
okay.
So thank you, Bobby, for all your conversation.
And we'll go awesome. Out. We'll go out on this.
Yeah, this is a perfect thing to go out. So this is a gratitude piece. So when I was living in San Diego, there's a woman. Her name is Judy Foreman, who owned a restaurant, and that was like the center of the community, right? Judy, the beauty on duty, and she had been a social worker in Detroit, and she really just got overwhelmed by the whole system and moved to San Diego and opened a restaurant, but continued to be a social worker through the restaurant, right? So her theme was, women, the feeding people as a way to give love and support. So her restaurant, and her in particular, was ground zero when the AIDS epidemic really hit San Diego, which was after I left. She was taking meals to people. She was grieving day after day. She was an executive of a number of estates. So she was thrown into this fully. And there's other, aspects of political action and lesbian, gay support, all this wonderful mix of things that was this restaurant. So I wanted to write something for her. So I wrote a whole show actually. But I would play one song closes it out. And it's fun. It's called Everybody Needs to Eat. Right.
Okay. So this is Judy the
beauty on duty. And this is
coming.